My name is Susan Chandler. I am 68 years old, and for the past 3 years, I've been quietly paying for my son's life, while he pretended he didn't need me. I'm a retired school administrator. I prefer quiet mornings, balanced checkbooks, and people who mean what they say. The trouble didn't start with a screaming match. It started with a phone call exactly 2 weeks before Christmas. I was at my kitchen island reviewing my monthly budget when my daughter-in-law Rachel called. She didn't bother with a greeting. Susan, about the Christmas party on the 24th. Rachel began, her voice tight with artificial sweetness. David and I have decided to make it a strictly networking event. My high-end design clients will be there, and honestly, the aesthetic is very formal. We think it's best if you sit this one out. I put my pen down. You're uninviting me from family Christmas? It's not a family Christmas anymore, she corrected smoothly. It's a luxury gala. My clients expect a certain caliber of company. No offense, Susan, but your practical sweaters and, well, your overall vibe, it just doesn't fit the image. This gala is no place for peasants. I know you understand. I looked at the open ledger on my counter. The top line was a $200 transfer for their mortgage. Below that, an $800 transfer for Rachel's luxury SUV lease. I felt a strange, cold clarity wash over me. I wasn't hurt. I was done. I understand completely, I answered. Great. David will drop off a gift card for you next week. She finished hanging up without another word. I sat in the quiet of my kitchen. For 3 years, I had funded the exact luxury she was now using to exclude me. I reached for my laptop, opened my banking dashboard, and stared at the scheduled transfers. If my presence was too embarrassing for her high-end life, my money would be too. To understand how we got here, you have to look back 3 years. My son David had always been passive, easily swept up in the currents of stronger personalities. When he married Rachel, he adopted her ambitions. David lost his mid-level management job right around the time Rachel decided to launch her boutique interior design firm. She insisted they couldn't downsize their home or trade in her premium car. Image is everything in this business, Susan David had pleaded with me on my porch one evening. If she looks successful, she'll get successful clients. We just need a bridge for a few months. I was a widow with a comfortable pension and a solid investment portfolio my late husband and I had built. I agreed to help. I set up an automatic transfer. I didn't hand them cash. I routed the money straight to their mortgage lender and the car financing company. It was supposed to be a temporary safety net. Months turned into years. David found a new job, but it paid less. Rachel's business brought in some money, but she spent every dime on expensive clothes, country club fees, and organic catering to maintain her elite status. They never asked me to stop the payments, and whenever I brought it up, David would deflect, claiming they were right on the edge of a massive breakthrough. Eventually, the gratitude faded. I became an expectation. Then I became a nuisance. Rachel stopped inviting me to dinners unless she needed a babysitter for their golden retriever. When her friends were around, she introduced me vaguely as David's mother, rushing me out of the room. She wanted the world to think she and David were completely self-made. My existence threatened that narrative. I never complained. I just watched. I noticed the designer bags, the weekend trips, the imported tiles she put in her guest bathroom. I knew exactly what they were building, and more importantly, I knew exactly whose foundation it was built upon. I didn't call David to argue. I didn't text Rachel to demand an apology. Arguing implies a negotiation, and there was nothing left to negotiate. I clicked into the family support account. The mortgage transfer was scheduled to go out in 3 days. I clicked the small red X next to it. Cancel. The prompt asked if I was sure. I confirmed. Next was the autopay for the luxury SUV. That payment was due at the end of the week. Cancel. Finally, there was a smaller $400 monthly transfer David had recently begged for, claiming it was for supplemental business insurance. I had checked the routing numbers a month ago. It was going straight to a private wine club membership. Cancel. In less than 3 minutes, a 3-year financial pipeline evaporated. I didn't feel vindictive. I felt incredibly light. The tension I had carried in my shoulders for 36 months simply vanished. I closed my laptop and poured myself a fresh cup of coffee. I didn't block their numbers. I didn't turn off my phone. I simply went about my day, heading out to prune my rose bushes in the crisp December air. I knew the exact moment reality would hit them. Rachel had mentioned they were putting down the final deposits for the caterers that afternoon. Because they lived exactly to the edge of their income, relying entirely on my secret transfers to keep their foundational bills paid, their own checking account was a house of cards. Without my money acting as their invisible cushion, their cards were about to decline. I snipped a dead branch off my rose bush. I wondered how long it would take for the phone to ring. I didn't have to wait long. At 2:15 p.m., my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was David. I answered on the third ring. "Hello, David? Mom, did you do something with the accounts?" His voice was frantic, lacking its usual relaxed drawl. Rachel just tried to pay the florist for the gala, and her card was declined. Then I checked the mortgage portal, and it says the auto-pay failed. "I canceled the transfers, David," I replied evenly, wiping dirt from my gardening gloves. "What?" Why, he stammered. "I'm reallocating my expenses." "You can't do that today." He raised his voice. "We have vendors to pay." Rachel is standing in the middle of a boutique, looking like an idiot. "Put the transfer back through Mom. We'll talk about this later." "No." There was a stunned silence. I heard a muffled scuffle, and then Rachel's sharp voice came through the speaker. "Susan, what is this childish game? You know we need that money to clear before Thursday. My reputation is on the line here." "Your reputation belongs to you, Rachel," I noted calmly. "As do your bills. You are ruining my Christmas event because you're throwing a tantrum over not being invited," she snapped. "I'm not throwing a tantrum," I corrected. "You made it clear I don't fit your high-end aesthetic." I agreed. "I am simply adjusting my financial involvement to match my social involvement." "Zero. You have to pay the mortgage," Rachel demanded. "You promised." "I promised a bridge, Rachel. 3 years is not a bridge. It's a permanent crutch. Good luck with the florist." I ended the call. I didn't let them drag me into a circle of justifications. I knew my son. He would freeze waiting for someone else to fix it. I knew my daughter-in-law too. She wouldn't freeze. She would try to bulldoze me. Less than an hour later, a silver SUV pulled violently into my driveway. Rachel stormed up my front walk. I unlocked the front door before she could pound on it, standing firmly in the doorway. I didn't invite her in. "You need to fix this right now," Rachel commanded, pointing a manicured finger at me. "David is having a panic attack, and I have caterers threatening to walk." "Then you should probably be at the bank." "Rachel, not at my house." She crossed her arms, her eyes narrowing. "You're doing this to punish us. You think because you hold the purse strings you can control our lives. Well, I won't be manipulated by someone who doesn't even understand the modern business world." "I don't want to control your life," I stated, keeping my tone perfectly flat. "I want to stop paying for it." She scoffed. "We'll just tell David to stop speaking to you. You'll never see your son again if you don't log in and send that money." It was the ultimate threat of a controller. She expected me to crumble to cry, to beg for access to my family. Instead, I looked at her keychain dangling from her hand. I saw the brass key with the square head, the spare key to my house I had given David years ago for emergencies. I reached out swiftly and smoothly and unhooked it from her ring. "Hey, what are you doing?" She stepped back, startled. Retrieving my property, I dropped the key into my pocket. "If David wants to speak to me, he knows where I live. But neither of you has free access to my home anymore. Drive safely, Rachel." I closed the solid oak door softly in her face and locked the deadbolt. I didn't peek through the curtains. I just walked back to the kitchen and started preparing my dinner. The next morning, the day before their famous gala, my phone lit up with a barrage of texts from David. "Mom, please, just for this month. Dad would be so disappointed in how you're treating family. Rachel is crying. The caterer downgraded our menu. Please, Mom, I'll pay you back. I promise." I read them all while drinking my tea. Using his dead father to manipulate me was a new low, but it only confirmed I was making the right decision. I picked up the phone and typed one single response. Rachel said this gala was no place for peasants. I agree. True elites fund their own luxury. The bank is closed today. Stop texting me. I put the phone on silent. Later that afternoon, I went to the local grocery store. It was chaotic with holiday shoppers. I bought a small, beautiful prime rib, some fresh asparagus, and a nice bottle of Cabernet. I was planning a quiet, excellent dinner for myself. As I stood in the checkout line, I realized something profound. For 3 years, I had dreaded the holidays. I had dreaded the forced smiles, the subtle put-downs from Rachel about my clothes, the way David looked at the floor when she insulted me. I had paid thousands of dollars a month for the privilege of being treated like a burden. Now my wallet was full, and my schedule was completely my own. I felt an incredible sense of peace. When I got home, I noticed a voicemail. It wasn't David or Rachel, it was a local event rental company. "Hi, Susan. This is Carter Rentals. We have you listed as the secondary billing contact for the Chandler Gala. The primary card declined for this balance on the champagne towers and the gold-rimmed plates. Give us a call back to settle the $1,200 balance or we cannot deliver today." I didn't call the rental company back. I had never signed any contract with them. Rachel had simply put my name and number down as a backup, assuming I would always cover her shortfalls if pressed. Not anymore. Christmas Eve arrived. At 7:00 p.m., right when Rachel's luxury networking gala was supposed to begin, I was sitting by my fireplace with my prime rib and a glass of wine. I didn't need to be at their house to know what was happening. Because they had no reserve funds, the canceled transfers had triggered a domino effect. Without the rental company delivery, there were no champagne towers or gold-rimmed plates. Because the florist's card had declined, the massive floral centerpieces Rachel had boasted about never arrived. At 8:30 p.m., I received a text from Martha, an old friend, whose daughter ran in Rachel's business circles and had been invited to the event. Martha's text read, "Susan, are you okay? My daughter just texted me from David's house. She said the party is a disaster. Half the food is missing, they are drinking wine out of basic water glasses, and Rachel has been locked in the guest bathroom for an hour." I smiled slightly and took a sip of my Cabernet. "I'm perfectly fine, Martha," I replied. "Just enjoying a quiet holiday at home." Rachel had wanted to project an image of effortless wealth to her clients. But wealth is only effortless when it's real. When it's built on someone else's secret generosity, it collapses the second the truth stops paying the bills. I finished my dinner, watched a classic holiday movie, and went to bed early. I slept better than I had in 3 years. The fallout didn't stay contained to Christmas Eve. 2 days later, I received a phone call from a man named Gregory Vance. He owned a local real estate firm and was one of the elite clients Rachel had been trying to court. I knew Gregory slightly from my days on the school board. "Susan? I hope you don't mind me calling." Gregory sounded hesitant. "I attended your daughter-in-law's event the other night. It was unusual." "I wasn't there, Gregory. How can I help you?" "Well, Rachel has been pitching me to hire her firm to stage our new luxury condo developments," he explained. Whenever I asked about her firm's financial backing or scale, she always implied you were her silent investor. She said Chandler Wealth backed her operations. I sat down at my kitchen table. Rachel hadn't just used my money to buy things. She had used my name to buy credibility. "Gregory, I prefer to be direct," I answered calmly. "I am not an investor in Rachel's company. I have zero financial stake in her business, and I do not back her operations. Any claims to the contrary are completely false." There was a heavy pause on the line. I see Gregory finally said, his tone entirely shifted. "Thank you for your honesty, Susan. That clears up a lot of things. Enjoy your new year." I hung up the phone. I didn't feel the need to call Rachel and gloat. I didn't need to warn David. By simply refusing to cover for their lies, the natural consequences were doing all the heavy lifting. The social circle Rachel had sacrificed her family to impress was now the exact circle rejecting her. January is a cold, unforgiving month for people who live beyond their means. Without my $4,000 monthly injection, David and Rachel's lifestyle completely fractured. The SUV was the first to go. Rachel had to voluntarily surrender the lease to avoid a massive penalty she couldn't pay. I saw her driving David's 10-year-old sedan around town a few weeks later. By the end of the month, A for sale sign went up in their front yard. They had missed the January mortgage payment, and reality had finally forced David to take control of his own life. In early February, the doorbell rang. It was David. He didn't look angry. He looked exhausted. His shoulders were slumped, and the artificial confidence he usually wore was gone. I led him into the living room, but I didn't offer him a seat. "We're moving," he stated quietly. "Renting a small townhouse across town. That sounds like a practical financial decision," I noted. "Rachel blames you, you know." He looked at the floor. "She says you humiliated her on purpose." "Rachel humiliated herself by selling a lifestyle she couldn't afford," I replied softly. "I just stopped buying the tickets to her show." David looked up at me. "Are we ever going to be okay, Mom?" "We are going to be exactly what we choose to be, David. But I will never be your bank account again. If you want a relationship with me, it will be based on mutual respect, not monthly retainers." He nodded slowly. He didn't ask for money. He didn't argue. He just turned and walked out the door. It wasn't a warm reunion, but it was the most honest conversation we'd had in years. It has been 6 months since I made those cancellations. I haven't seen Rachel. I hear through the grapevine that her boutique business shuttered and she took a standard job at a retail furniture store. David comes over once a month for coffee. He pays for his own gas to get here. We talk about the weather, his new job, and sports. It's surface level, but it's real. I didn't take them to court. I didn't launch a smear campaign. I simply drew a line in the sand and refused to move it. With the extra money staying in my own accounts, I made some changes. I upgraded my kitchen not to impress anyone, but because I enjoy cooking. I started a community gardening project at the local library. I funded a small scholarship for students in the district where I used to work. I learned that boundaries are not punishments. They are protections. For 3 years, I thought I was helping my family by shielding them from the reality of their own choices. I thought my silence was an act of love. I was wrong. True love doesn't subsidize delusion. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do when someone hands you a script where you play the fool is simply refuse to read the lines. I am a widow. I am a mother. And according to my daughter-in-law, I am a peasant. But I sleep deeply every single night in a home I own, living a life I can afford. And that is a luxury no one can cancel. Looking back at Susan's story, the biggest takeaway isn't about getting revenge. It's about recognizing the critical difference between helping someone you love and subsidizing a lie. So often we tolerate disrespect because we convince ourselves that keeping the peace is the only way to keep our family together. But a relationship maintained at the expense of your own dignity isn't a family dynamic. It's a hostage situation. Susan didn't destroy her son's life. She simply handed him the bill for it. And maybe that's the most important reminder for all of us. True generosity should build someone's independence, not their entitlement. You never have to apologize for refusing to finance someone else's ego, and you certainly don't have to pay an admission fee to be respected in your own family. If you found yourself nodding along with Susan's quiet strength, or if you've ever had to draw a hard financial boundary with someone you love, I want to hear from you. Would you have canceled those transfers the exact same way, or would you have handled it differently? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy stories about real people finally taking back their power, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.